few weeks ago, I, like most people in the United States, celebrated the 4th of July. It was a good day, enjoyable. I spent it with family and friends. And if you celebrated the 4th of July, I hope you also had a good day. For my part, like I said, spent the day with family. We had a cookout. The kids were running around playing. The adults chatted around the grill. Later in the day, a bunch of people walked down to the lake and took a swim. It was an okay time. I have only one complaint, one asterisk, if you will. And that is that the day was blazingly, excruciatingly hot. Think 90 plus degrees with high humidity. Hot. And like these things usually do, the conversation eventually rolled around talking about the weather. And someone looked over at me and said, this heat doesn't bother you because you were in the Marines. And it's a strange comment, but I get it. A lot of people have the misperception that in the military they teach you some sort of Jedi mind tricks that make you impervious to the heat. And I can't speak for the other services, but I can say without a doubt that this isn't true for the Marine Corps. We hate being hot just as much as the next person. The difference is that we learned very quickly in the service that our higher-ups did not care if we were unhappy being hot or being cold for that matter. So we learned to suffer in silence. And that's probably a habit, honestly, that I've carried with me into the civilian world. That said, however, in the Marine Corps, we were put in many positions where we were too hot, too cold, when we were hungry, when we were tired. And I learned something important. I learned that I could suffer, that I could be unhappy, that I could be miserable even, but I'd still be okay. My body didn't fall apart just because I was uncomfortable. The world didn't come to an end just because I was unhappy. More than that, I realized that a lot of times if I just grit my teeth and endured a little bit of discomfort, it generally wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. This was especially important to remember during the summer when we did live fire training exercises. So these are the moments where our M16s are loaded with live ammunition. So we're shooting real bullets downrange. At the same time, we're moving from place to place, communicating over the radio. Explosions are going off around us. They want to make it as realistic as possible. So it's exciting, but it's also extremely dangerous. So we wore all the protective equipment. Heavy boots, long pants, long sleeves, Kevlar helmets, tactical gloves, flak jackets. Pretty much the exact opposite of what you want to be wearing on a hot summer day. I remember one time in particular, we were standing in formation, waiting to receive our orders for the day, and it was so hot I can feel the sweat pooling on the back of my neck until finally it rolled down my back, down, until it went into my boots. By the time we started moving towards our objective, I could feel the squish of my sweat in my boots. So I was miserable. I was unhappy, but I got through it. I got through the training exercise. Similarly, there have been times during my Buddhist training where I've been wearing these robes on hot days, or I've been sitting on the cushion and my leg is starting to tingle and not feel so great because it's falling asleep. Maybe I'm tired from the night before. I didn't get enough rest and we have to sit in meditation without falling asleep for hours on end. So much suffering, so much unhappiness, and yet we can be okay in the midst of that unhappiness. And this is an important lesson to learn because in Buddhism, the first noble truth, right from the start, we're told life is suffering. More than that, Buddha taught the 8 winds of suffering. He taught that regardless of our race, religion, geographic location, Every single person will experience birth, aging, sickness, and death. Every single person will lose things they want to keep, gain things they'd rather lose friends and gain enemies. There are some types of suffering in the world that are unavoidable. And I wonder what would happen to us in our daily lives if instead of trying to do all these weird backflips and mental gymnastics to avoid unavoidable suffering, we just grit our teeth and endured some discomfort for a while. Now I want to be clear. Buddhism teaches that if we have a problem and there's a solution, we should solve the problem. My Zen teacher, Venerable Shi Fa, often said that life gives us enough suffering. We don't need to create more. But in those moments where our suffering is unavoidable, in those moments where we're given a task at work we don't want to do but we need the money, the house is dirty and we're the only ones home to clean it, we're going somewhere important and we get stuck in a traffic jam, what if instead of trying to avoid that unavoidable suffering, we simply went through it? Allowed ourselves to endure a little bit of discomfort? I bet that in those moments we'd come out the other side a lot better off than we thought we would. I think that we would suffer less if we allowed ourselves to suffer a little bit, instead of suffering more by trying to avoid the unavoidable. What if next time we're stuck in a traffic jam, instead of staring at our watch or beeping our horn, we simply turn on our favorite podcast or listen to music on the radio? What if next time the house is dirty, we simply call up a friend on the phone and have a friendly chat with them while we wash those dishes or sweep the floor? What would happen if next time we get a task at work we don't like, instead of belly aching about the unfairness of it all, we simply express gratitude that we have a job that allows us to earn money to pay our bills? It's my position that by allowing ourselves to suffer more at times, we actually suffer less, because we don't add on unnecessary suffering on top of the suffering that's unavoidable, thus making life easier both for ourselves and the people around us as well. Amitabha.